"You're just a housekeeper now," my mother-in-law announced at my wedding, kicking my pregnant belly. As I rose to leave, the police arrived. Sitting in the waiting area of the Child Welfare Center at Massachusetts General Hospital, with the spring sunshine pouring in, I was going over the documents for the meeting. It was only 60 minutes until the center's yearly fundraising function. For me, a Texan, maneuvering Boston's upper class remained a challenge. I'd grown up in Houston, and sometimes the traditions and the complex, long-held relationships there felt overwhelming. Suddenly, a soft voice spoke from behind me. "Ms. Williams, your presentation was outstanding. The way you're trying to help children who have suffered is really groundbreaking." When I turned, I saw a tall man standing there. It was Michael Anderson, an executive at Life Health Pharmaceuticals. As he peered at me with his clear gaze from above his dark blue suit, I was briefly at a loss for words. That's how we began. Michael was a genuine person who cherished his family. We would often walk through Boston Common together on holidays, cycle along the Charles River, and spend time browsing in used bookstores. Every now and then, he'd share recollections of his upbringing. I'd hear about his days in a vast mansion on Beacon Hill, his childhood spent emulating his father, who had graduated from Harvard. These stories seemed like they were from a different universe to me. After a year of dating, Michael proposed to me at a quaint French restaurant located on Newbury Street. A gentle snowfall drifted past the window, and the candlelight created dancing shadows on the wall, yet the Andersons were causing some unease in me. At the formal introduction in their Beacon Hill home, I paused before the impressive old building. Carol Anderson was famous as one of Boston's leading philanthropists. She had accomplished many things as the head of the Children's Future Foundation. She was also a Harvard University trustee, with important contacts in political and financial circles. She gave me a flawless smile that day. "What a charming girl. Michael has excellent taste," she said. Though I must admit being from Texas is a little surprising. I noticed a definite meaning hidden in those words. Ashley, Michael's sister, made quite a different impression. Michael's sister resided at the family home, raising her 5-year-old son, Noah. Since her marriage to a private school teacher had ended, she was reliant on her mother. There was something cold hiding beneath her polite behavior. But I tried not to let it bother me. When I discovered I was pregnant with twins, in the 6 months between our engagement and wedding, Michael cried tears of happiness. However, because he was working on a significant project at the pharmaceutical company, he was usually traveling during the work week. Lately, Carol and Ashley seemed to visit Olivia an awful lot. "We're family now," Carol would tell me. "You can depend on us for anything." But honestly, Olivia felt a little uneasy about it. I just couldn't put my finger on what bothered me. Then the wedding day arrived. I was in the bridal suite at the Ritz-Carlton in Boston, getting into my pristine white wedding gown. I gently touched my slightly rounded tummy. Outside, the gentle early spring sunlight illuminated the Boston skyline. The steeples of the old churches were silhouetted through the morning fog. "Soon, our new life will start," I whispered to my twins. At that moment, a warm feeling of optimism filled my heart. Just then, Carol walked into the suite. Looking immaculate in an expensive suit with perfect makeup, my soon-to-be mother-in-law had a significant smile on her face. In the somewhat dark room, something about her expression seemed off. "Are you ready? The real test is about to begin. You'll have to perform your duties correctly as an Anderson bride." Those words gave me goosebumps, but I tried to convince myself it was just pre-wedding jitters. The grand ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton in Boston was stunning. Century-old crystal chandeliers scattered light across the room, while pure white roses and calla lilies decorated the space beautifully. Gold accents on the walls reflected the soft light, making the room feel like a heavenly space. I gazed across the room, seeing over 300 people already seated, and they were all decked out in the most elegant attire imaginable, representing Boston's elite. I noticed the governor, along with federal judges, other judges, company presidents, and leaders of big businesses. I saw that the women were sporting the newest Chanel and Dior gowns, with just a touch of Harry Winston jewels to add some sparkle. Local reporters, with their cameras ready, kept watch from the edges of the hall, not wanting to miss the chance to write about the wedding of the Queen of Philanthropy's oldest child. I thought I could practically see the Society page writer from the Boston Globe mentally composing the headline, "Wedding of the Century." When the clock struck noon and the bells chimed, the sound of the pipe organ resonated throughout the space. Olivia started her walk down the aisle, and I noticed Michael's loving stare as he gazed at her, and she moved ever so slowly towards him. Her pristine white wedding dress had been custom-made by Vera Wang, a gown that Carol had insisted upon, believing it was absolutely perfect for an Anderson family bride. I could see that every delicate lace detail was chosen to represent the bride's grace. As the hymns began, the couple stood facing each other in front of the minister. I could clearly see that Michael's eyes were just overflowing with complete love. The service continued without a hitch. They spoke their vows and traded rings, promising their enduring love. Despite all of this, a certain sense of dread from earlier that morning lingered inside Olivia's heart. When the reception began, the mood started to change, becoming much more celebratory. I heard champagne bottles opening, and a live orchestra started playing. The principal violinist from the Boston Symphony Orchestra created a refined and classy ambience with Mendelssohn's Wedding March. The exquisite meal of poached Maine lobster and fresh seasonal vegetables was presented, and the wine started flowing. Carol's voice echoed through the room as she spoke into the microphone. She looked stunning in her Oscar de la Renta gown, possessing an air of a true queen of high society. I'm deeply grateful to all of you for being here today, celebrating with the Anderson family. A warm round of applause followed her mother-in-law's radiant smile. Then Michael's cell phone went off. He explained it was an urgent conference call with a client. With a look of regret, he got up and left the gathering. He said he'd return in approximately half an hour, and that was the last thing Olivia heard as he left her there. Right then, I had a feeling something significant was about to happen. It felt like things were about to shift somehow. Initially, the waitstaff started acting differently. Service to Olivia, service to Olivia. Her table was getting completely ignored. They weren't refilling her wine glass. People throughout the room began staring at her. The subtle bullying that is common in high society had begun. Ashley spoke in a really loud tone of voice. Her Hermes dress was incredibly flashy. Hey, do you know where she comes from in Texas? It's Houston, and not even a good part of Houston. It's a very poor area. Her dad was a supermarket employee, and her mom was a housekeeper. Just the thought of it, laughter began spreading throughout different parts of the room. Olivia took a steadying breath and kept her cool. When I worked as a child welfare counselor, I was taught how to handle people's cruelty. Dealing with mistreatment and prejudice was just another part of my day. However, the environment here felt distinctly wrong. Carol spoke into the microphone once more. This time, the affection I had seen on her face had disappeared, replaced by a smile that wasn't genuine at all. The light from the chandelier seemed to make her expression even more unsettling. Her eyes shone with an odd intensity. "Oh yes, I have an announcement to make." Carol's voice slowly and deliberately filled the room. "Allow me to present our new housekeeper." The room went completely silent. The well-off crowd seemed to stop breathing, like they knew something bad was coming. "From now on, you're going to be our housekeeper and also look after the kids. You're nothing but a slave." That's just how things are when you join the Anderson family. As Carol finished speaking, Olivia immediately tried to stand up. But almost as if she knew what was coming, Carol's foot moved quickly. Her expensive leather boots moved towards Olivia's stomach. A quiet thump resonated, followed by a sudden pain. Olivia had been kicked in her pregnant belly by the leather boot. She automatically curled up, desperately trying to shield her unborn twins. Before she could even scream, Ashley's loud laughter filled the air. Holding her crystal wine glass in a refined way, she said, "Of course, you will take care of my child as well. For no charge, and also all of Noah's care is your responsibility. That's to be expected of a servant, isn't it?" Some nervous laughter started to spread through the room. As I observed this bizarre situation unfold, the wealthy onlookers, worried about the Anderson family's power, kept their mouths shut. Some people cast their gaze downward, while others looked away entirely. News reporters were furiously scribbling notes. It seemed like the next day's major stories were already taking shape in their heads. Their eyes were red, practically bulging with excitement over the potential scandal that would fill the society columns. Just then, a single tear trickled down Olivia's face. However, it wasn't a tear caused by dread or shame. Her eyes shone with a powerful resolve. Slowly, she stood up and began walking toward the door. Her posture was perfect, and she never once glanced backward. Right before her hand reached the door handle, she said in a voice that was soft but unwavering, "Please, everyone, hold on." The celebratory mood of the party immediately vanished. Carol's face lost all its color. When the door opened, 2 police officers were standing there. Detective James O'Connor, representing the Boston Police Special Investigation Unit, and Lieutenant Sarah Morrison from the Child Abuse Special Task Force were present. Behind them, Michael was standing there too. His face showed a combination of both rage and sorrow. "Mrs. Carol Anderson, you are under arrest for assault." Detective O'Connor's words reverberated throughout the silent ballroom. The light from the chandelier faintly glinted off of the police badges. Carol's face turned white. "What a ridiculous thing to say. Arrest me. I am part of Boston's. And we are also arresting you for endangering unborn children," Lieutenant Morrison added in a calm way. "We also possess evidence of long-lasting emotional abuse." Ashley let out a scream. This can't be right, I thought, completely stunned. I jumped up quickly but lost my balance, and my wine glass slipped from my hand, crashing onto the floor. Crimson liquid so red spread out on the pristine white carpet. Then I pulled out my phone. Here's the proof, I thought. The audio clip started playing. That woman would be the ideal servant, the recording revealed. While Michael is out of town, we will make her life miserable. Yes, mother. And if she doesn't do what we tell her, her kids will also face some kind of discipline. Everything Carol and Ashley had said was recorded. Dates, times, places. It was all written down. This wasn't just some sort of emotional overreaction. It was proof of their intentions to hurt someone. Michael moved forward, his voice filled with sadness. Mother, how could you? Oh, Michael, why on earth, Michael? Carol abruptly changed, wearing a cold smile. We are a special family. That woman and her kids. Silence fell over the room. Michael's enraged voice filled the place, something I had never seen from this normally composed man. Enough, Mother and Ashley, I'm done with this. Carol's facade finally dropped. Your family is here, she said. We are your true family. That woman is absolutely nothing but. She instantly charged toward me, but the police instantly stopped her. The cold metal of the handcuffs dug into Carol's slender wrists. Ashley had just started to cry. Noah, what about my son? Lieutenant Morrison calmly replied, Child Protective Services will handle everything. Your son's safety is the most important thing. The scene was utter pandemonium. The elite attendees couldn't believe their eyes at this shocking development. Journalists were scribbling like mad, with cameras flashing constantly. The fact that Carol was stunned was unbelievable. Pure evil, hidden underneath the facade of a charitable person. What's going to become of the children's charity? Rumors spread quickly around the place. But these were not expressions of compassion. Instead, they were filled with contempt for years of deception. I watched Olivia approach Michael discreetly. He wrapped his arms around his wife and gently touched her pregnant belly. Are you doing okay? We need to get to the hospital now. Yes, I'm just worried. Don't be concerned. I won't let anyone harm either of you ever again. A comforting feeling began to envelop them. Several individuals came up to offer words of support. Just then, the doors to the venue opened once more. The emergency medical team from Massachusetts General Hospital had arrived. Dr. Sarah Watson, an OB-GYN and Olivia's coworker, hurried toward her. Olivia, we need to check you out immediately. The paramedics carefully lifted Olivia onto a stretcher. Michael held her hand tightly as he went with her. Carol and Ashley were escorted away by the police. Their retreating forms had completely lost all their previous sense of importance. Their expensive designer outfits now appeared like flimsy attempts to shield themselves. In the crowd of people left, a man stood up. He was a justice from the Massachusetts Supreme Court. This is a serious situation. We must start an immediate investigation into everything the Children's Future Foundation has done. The other board members agreed with his statement. Following years of deceptive behavior, the full reality was on the verge of coming out. Early police inquiries unveiled increasingly disturbing revelations. The mistreatment inflicted by Carol wasn't something new at all. There was evidence of abuse directed toward former housekeepers, young employees, and even her own daughter, Ashley. All of it had been expertly hidden, yet now the truth would finally be brought to light. That evening at the hospital, Michael spoke softly while holding Olivia's hand. I wanted to thank her for being so strong. Furthermore, I can't forgive myself for not seeing who my mother and sister really were. Olivia smiled, and she replied, It wasn't your doing. We still have a reason to be optimistic. She softly put her hand on her stomach. The ultrasound revealed that the twins were doing just fine. The interrogation room at Boston Police Headquarters was lit by the sterile, bright glare of fluorescent lights. Carol Anderson sat in a stiff chair, still wearing her expensive designer dress. A large one-way mirror was set up on the wall, letting the investigators watch her every move. I want to state this one more time. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison opened up a thick file. In front of her was a mountain of proof gathered from the investigation. Your history of abuse stretches back quite some time. Carol scoffed. I'm Boston's most honored benefactor. These are just groundless gossip. Morrison casually picked up a tablet and played a video. It showed Carol mistreating a young housekeeper. It was security camera footage from the Anderson mansion from the year 2019. Then 2020, 2021, and 2022. In the videos that followed, Carol's terrible behavior got worse as time went on. Are these claims also untrue? Carol's face became rigid, and that's not all. Plus, there was audio playing now, a discussion with Ashley's former spouse. Also, emails from an internal source within the Children's Future Foundation were revealed constantly. There was bogus bookkeeping, the theft of charitable contributions, and inappropriate involvement in staffing decisions. Proof of ongoing criminal activity, going on for more than 2 decades, kept surfacing. Ashley was also in another room, being questioned. She had started confessing everything. Mom required us to be perfect, she said, her voice shaking. Any errors were completely unacceptable. Bringing dishonor to the family was the worst thing imaginable. As she pulled up her sleeve, I saw old wounds from mistreatment. Despite all of that, I still trusted Mom's affection. I told myself it was all meant to help us. Outside the interrogation room, a woman who looked like Michael was having a serious conversation with an attorney. This was Jane Hamilton, sent from Boston's most respected law firm. "This is not only a domestic violence case," Hamilton observed. "There's massive fraud through a charity, ongoing abuse for years," and she produced some new papers. They included details from Carol's younger days, her initial marriage, her first husband's oddly coincidental death. 1990, the end of her marriage to her second husband. He disappeared almost immediately after. And then, the wedding to her present husband. Michael's dad, it all fit. Inside the Special Investigations Unit at the Massachusetts State Prosecutor's Office, my colleagues and I were putting in long hours scrutinizing all sorts of evidence. We pored over 2 decades worth of financial paperwork, emails, and phone records that concerned the future for children. We looked at every single thing very carefully. The prosecutor gave the order to trace where the charitable donations were going. We paid special attention to records of any money moved to overseas accounts. The data review brought to light some pretty astounding discoveries, one after the other. We found that Carol had secretly taken roughly $50 million through her charity. She was quite ingenious, using several shell corporations to funnel the money before finally moving the funds into clandestine accounts located in the Cayman Islands. The number of abuse victims was even more troubling. Over the course of 2 decades, the Anderson family had employed over 30 housekeepers. Many of them vanished shortly after some abuses. A good number of them were immigrants who were being mistreated, but kept quiet to keep sending money home. The case started getting a lot of coverage in the newspapers. The effect on society was more than anyone anticipated. The elite circles of Boston were absolutely rattled. Important people who knew Carol well were being asked one by one about what they knew and if they were somehow responsible. The integrity of the entire charitable world started to be questioned. The media kept digging up new information every day. Former housekeepers started to come forward and tell their stories. We were monitored all the time by the security cameras. We only got 1 meal a day, and it was just leftovers. They confiscated our travel documents and limited where we could go. The transformation in Massachusetts. The medical professionals from General Hospital examined the evidence of previous mistreatment using scientific methods. The findings were even more upsetting. Ashley's physical form showed evidence of childhood mistreatment. Nevertheless, the evidence had been carefully hidden. What was presented as therapy at fancy spas was really an attempt to cover up scars. Additional accounts surfaced from inside the Children's Future Foundation also. Her behavior during meetings resembled that of a tyrant. Employees who dared to disagree were immediately destroyed professionally. An accountant who attempted to look into how donations were being spent vanished without a trace. As the inquiry continued, the entire scope of Carol's crimes became clearer. This went beyond simply mistreatment and the theft of funds. It was a terrible past constructed by a thirst for power, wealth, and a disturbing need for control. Around the same time, Olivia received a letter while in her hospital room. It was from a housekeeper who had been employed by the Anderson family a decade earlier. "I am profoundly thankful for your bravery. At last, we can be liberated. The reality can be harsh at times, but the nerve to confront it generates fresh optimism." Michael chose to present all the documentation to the authorities. "Even if she's my mom, the law needs to prevail." Half a year later, in a tranquil residential neighborhood located in the Boston metropolitan area, with maple trees beginning to change color to crimson, gently encircled a brand-new, large home. I pushed the drapes aside, allowing the morning sun to flood into the twins' room. Emma, in her pink bed, and Noah, in his pale blue bed, slowly extended their little arms and legs as they woke up. Both of them had Michael's eyes, but they had Olivia's smile. I was downstairs in the kitchen. Michael was making breakfast. He was now the head of the research and development side of the pharmaceutical company. He was putting all his energy into creating new medications designed for children, while also cherishing the moments with his family. "The news is out." Olivia displayed the screen of her phone. The Massachusetts Supreme Court had handed down sentences, with Carol getting 15 years behind bars and Ashley receiving 7 years. Furthermore, they were told to give back the roughly $50 million they had stolen and pay the people they had hurt. "It's finally done," Michael said, with a mix of both relief and a bit of sadness in his tone. There had been some things we didn't expect during the trial. Just before beginning her sentence, Ashley relinquished all parental rights to her son, Noah. As part of this, she committed to getting counseling to help her change. She had developed a deep wish to stop repeating the cycle of abuse that she had experienced from her mom. Carol didn't own up to her actions until the very end. Yet she had totally lost the great influence she once held. The Children's Future Foundation was closed down and then restarted as the New Hope Foundation, with an entirely new group of people in charge. The lives of the former victims also slowly started to improve. People who had been housekeepers began to rebuild their lives using money from the foundation. I noticed some people opened up little eateries. Others, they began going to their ideal colleges. A lot of them got involved in helping out those who had been hurt by human trafficking and mistreatment, drawing upon what they'd been through. I, too, started doing some new things. Along with my job at Massachusetts General Hospital, I put together a support group named Survivor's Voice. It became a secure spot where people who'd experienced domestic violence and oppression could share their stories. Slowly, these actions expanded all across the country. I remember saying in a TV interview, everyone should be able to live their lives freely. Taking that away using power or riches is simply wrong. And if you're brave enough to tell your story, I know someone will be there to assist you. Michael, he began a research program at the pharmaceutical company, focusing on the mental health treatment of those who had experienced abuse. What used to be the Anderson Mansion became a support center for victims, where once there were only sad memories, now there's a feeling of optimism. One time on a weekend, while strolling in the park with my family, a woman came up to us. "Are you Olivia?" she asked, with tears in her eyes. "My daughter was helped by the counseling at your organization. I can't thank you enough." We'd been hearing those types of things more and more. The twins, they kept growing up strong. Emma got her mother's big heart, and Noah had his father's natural curiosity. Both really flourished in our warm family atmosphere. Every so often, Ashley's son Noah, who's the twins' cousin, would come over to play. I was raised with a foster family, experiencing a fresh setting where love was abundant. My injured heart was gradually getting better, steadily finding its way to recovery. The living room wall now held a fresh family picture. This image displayed the happy family of 4 with a towering maple tree that had matured. The pain I endured in the past had definitely left its mark. Nonetheless, those marks now demonstrated the evidence of a fresh start filled with optimism. Olivia and I kept moving ahead side by side. Even though we sometimes cried, we never stopped believing that things would get better. And my story still provides inspiration and fortitude for lots of people. It shows how important it is to use your voice. It shows how vital it is to stand up for the people you care about, and it offers optimism for creating a future. As a family, we gazed at a sunset painted in the nighttime sky, filling us with anticipation. It promised a brighter day to come. "Hey, Michael," Olivia said as she held our twins. "Everything is going to be all right." "Yes, it is," I answered with a soft smile. "Let's keep going onward together." Time goes on, the trees get new leaves, and the narrative of hope just keeps on.